At this point in time, I'd like to call the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting to order. I'm going to ask everyone to please stand for the speaking of the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Sims?
Here.
Miss Webster? Here. Miss Cooksis?
Here.
Mr. McGinnis? Oh, my God. Mr. White? Miss White?
Here.
And Mr. Sunnycow?
Here.
And at this point in time, we do have a new member. His name is Mr. McKinnis. So we'll welcome him at the next meeting, or if he comes, we'll welcome him at some point tonight. And Mr. Sunnycamp, you will be voting in the place of Jim should we have anything that needed to be voted upon tonight?
Correct.
Okay. So, and Marguerite, so can you enlighten me about the agenda modifications?
Excuse me?
The agenda modifications we have. So there's no agenda, so item 4.
No, that's what we should put them over there.
I apologize. So, excuse me, I apologize. So there's nothing for that one. So at this point in time, we're gonna, has everyone had an opportunity to read over the minutes from the December the 11th meeting?
Yes.
If we'll take a few moments to read over those minutes, since it's been a little while, then we'll get a motion and a second.
Well, I can make a motion to, wait, you weren't even here.
I know, but it has me in. I was not present at that meeting, and going through the notes, it has me making a comment. And it's not page number. It's where it says, Mrs. White commented about the handicap designation and questioned whether there is handicap pickleball. Page 3. So I'm not sure who mentioned that, but.
Okay, so we know that. That's not bad.
All right, just that I didn't say it, so I just.
Were there any more items need to be corrected?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the minutes. Maybe take out that comment from Ms. White.
We have a motion. We have a motion for approval minus the one comment by Ms. White. Is there a second?
I second.
Say, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Joanne?
Yes.
Aye. So minutes are approved as written, minus the correction, or the deletion of the correction, or that one item. Okay?
Okay, so the minutes for Monday, January 22nd, it was only me and Mr. Sunnycap here, so.
So do we still need to have those minutes approved, although it was not enough for a quorum for that meeting?
The city clerk's office thought that it would be a good idea to include them. It wasn't really a meeting.
Okay.
Obviously, there wasn't a quorum, but per the city clerk's office, she thought it would be a good idea to just include them in the.
Okay. But would we need to have we need to have the minutes voted upon to be approved, or although it was not a meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Monday, January 22nd.
A second?
You're going to have to second that.
I second it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. So are there any comments about that? So no further comments. So the minutes for the meeting of the January meeting we'll have a vote, I should say, a vote. Okay. So the minutes are approved for the January meeting. We're going to start with the, so Mr. Hernandez, would you like to give us a update on the playground repair status?
Yes, Creative Playground has been finally reopened. We opened the playground on January 30th. That was, one of the main things that we needed to do based on last year's inspections. So that's been reopened. And we have received the mulch for the 5 playgrounds that need the surface replacement. Public Facilities began working on Bryant Court Playground this week.
Okay.
And that's the update I have.
Any questions from the board about? Okay. Our next item would be the Recreation and Open Space Element, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. And item 1 is the Recreation Open Space Element draft. So we're gonna look that over briefly, or? Okay. Would staff like to give us some comments about this?
We'd be happy to. Thank you very much. This is the draft recreation open space element that the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council prepared for the city of Sebastian, and we thought it was logical to bring it before this committee and get their first brush opinion regarding this updated element of our comprehensive plan. Once we get your recommendations, we will also be formally bringing it in front of the Planning and Zoning Board and then on to the City Council. And then, of course, it has to be adopted and approved by the DEO up at the state before it can formally be placed in our comprehensive plan. That schedule has not been determined at this time. We just felt that it was a good idea to bring it all to you and get your first opinion of it, and to educate you a little bit more on the comprehensive planning effort that is mandatory in our state. So the comprehensive plan is made up of 10 to 12 elements, dependent upon where you lay in the state and what you want to include, and the whims of the legislature at times. However, the parks, recreation, and open space element is typically mandatory. And what the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council did was they took our 1999 data and analysis and element, and they updated it all. So you will see references in there regarding the state level levels of service, the state planning guidelines. They reference all of these things within this element. That's how they prepared a lot of the policies, the recommended policies, and the data and analysis. They also used GIS to verify our parks. They did, of course, field survey, working very closely with Margarita and our other staff to determine what type of facilities we have in our parks, and to bring that all into a policy for our use, or I'm sorry, an element for our use. The goals, objectives, and policies that you find in a comprehensive plan element generally direct the long-range planning of the city, and a lot of those policies then end up being either land development regulations and or future expenditures in accordance with whatever that element is. So with that, I'll take questions or comments or...
Okay, so the city presented it to the board, so at the conclusion, I mean, we can bring this back home, look it over, read through it, and then at the next meeting, we can be able to have, I mean, if we don't have any questions now, I don't have any questions right now, but I'm just saying, like, if the other members do not have any questions, like, but we may have some questions going forward at the next meeting, so we can bring those back to you at that point in time?
Absolutely. Okay. We have no set schedule at this point for a formal presentation to the Planning and Zoning Board. Okay. We are working on several other elements and getting them going, so we're trying to determine if we're going to bring them all together, because again, this has to be finally adopted by the City Council and then the state. So we kind of like want to bring it all together. So we may wait, and so the short answer is yes, you have time to bring back your questions and comments.
Okay. So I'm not going to speak for everyone tonight, but we'll start at Sunny to see if Sunny have any questions before we go any further. Then we just go throughout everyone here.
No.
Joanne?
I don't have any questions right now, but what's you guys' take on it? You think it's something we need, right? This plan, the
Oh, it's
updating?
mandatory by the state to have a Parks and Rec open space element within your comprehensive plan. We feel that the data analysis are pretty good. It's pretty spot on for what, we asked them to do. We feel that some of the goals, objectives, and policies could be sharpened up, possibly. They added some new language, but really they took a lot of the existing language that we have and moved it around a little bit. So, for instance, I will point out a few things that kind of rolls into the multi-year capital improvement schedule that's also part of item B. Mr. Chair, if it's all right if I move on to that?
Yeah, yes.
It just kind of segues what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So if you look at policy 7-1.5.8, it's the very last page on 7.32. It talks about wayfinding and voluntary compliance, and and they've added this, they being the consultant, and Margarita and I did agree with it, that to improve user understanding and compliance and facilitate enforcement, the city shall install a park rules sign of consistent appearance at each site. The city shall add consistent name signs to all parks that are currently not marked, and shall install park system maps at all parks that do not currently have them.
Okay.
And we felt that this was a good community project that perhaps we should put into next year's capital improvement program. We're starting the budget process now. This would give consistency to all of our parks, and it would bring them together in one big system, if you will. We do have an old parks map that I think is, what is it called, Pelican Path? I don't know if anyone is familiar with it. We do not have the original electronic version of that map, so it would be a good idea to take some of this data that we have received from the Regional Planning Council and meld it into a systems map for all of the parks. We thought that might be a nice idea. So when you look at the multi-year capital improvement schedule that again, the consultant with Margarita and I's input put together, they are showing that, of course, Friendship Park has a all-inclusive playground that was in this year's CIP, but with the backload of projects that we have in the city, we're pushing that off until next year. Yeah. But they are also recommending that George Street, the play structure there, is replaced or improved, Margarita? I don't know.
Replaced.
Replaced. There's also, if you look at the bottom, it says miscellaneous playground components. Currently, in our CIP budget, under Parks and Rec with the city, it gives this allocated funding every year of $25,000, and that's for improvements to the play sets as we move on, because I think that it was quite a surprise as to how much dollars we really did need to improve the playgrounds within the city that you all have been working so diligently on this past year. So that is actually a line item in the budget. City park signage, again, is another policy that they are recommending that then segues into either a land development code possibly and/or a CIP, a capital improvement project. They are also recommending, based on the age of the park courts, when the resurfacing of those courts would be due, and they are showing that Schumann Tennis would be due possibly in 2019. Now, of course, we would do an assessment, see if it really does need to be resurfaced, and then put that in the CIP.
Okay.
So those are really great examples. Another food for thought regarding the CIP and our beginning the budget process here in the city, is that you as an advisory board can advise as to what could be placed in the CIP, right?
Yes.
Larger projects or even smaller projects. Through the year, I've noted that you will recommend, based on needs in the community, some improvements to be done to particular parks. We don't have a line item in the budget for these improvements, okay? So sometimes, you know, we're taking it out of maintenance or we're taking it out of the general fund. There's no line item in the budget for particular improvements that you as the advisory board brings forth. So what I would like to propose, again, as we move into the new budget year, I would like to propose that as part of the CIP for this board, or it wouldn't even be the CIP, well, it would be, it could be, part of your budget line item would be to allocate a certain dollar amount to be spent, you know, possibly in, you know, each of the 4 zones in that year, just for the small improvements. We're talking less than 25,000, less than, you know, 1,000. If you need a park bench somewhere, or if you need a water fountain somewhere, and they're low dollar items, right? But magnified over the year, now you're exceeding a certain dollar amount and it's taking out of the maintenance line item of the budget. I would recommend strongly that this board possibly puts in a line item, 20,000, 25,000, that can be spread through the year throughout the parks for those small improvements that you all recommend. Does that make sense?
And we wouldn't
Questions,
have to
please?
go, it wouldn't have to go through city council then? That money would be there so that when those things did come up, it could be pulled out of that account?
That is correct.
And that would come out of our Parks and Rec money, so if it was $25,000 a year kept in an account, so when small things came up that the public or have to be addressed or whatever items it is, we can do it without city council if it's not a large item.
That is correct, because that budget line item will be ultimately approved by the city council as a line item in the city's budget. So it's approved at that level.
And
But
if we didn't spend that money during that year, would it move over to the next year then?
It absolutely could, yes.
Okay, I have a couple questions when you're done.
I am done.
The city parks improvement that you were on the chart for $25,000, that's something different, right?
Then what I just mentioned,
Yeah,
yes,
and where
ma'am.
does this 25,000, where are we thinking this comes out of? Is this out of Parks and Rec also?
Yes, ma'am.
So then we're going to focus on one park every year, looks like, and that way we can do any improvements? Is that what we're looking at?
Margarita, please answer that.
Yes, it ended up being that way.
Uh-huh.
If we're looking at the CIP that was recommended by the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, it ended up being that way, right? To where, and it's based on when it was initially installed. So if you look at George Street, the date of installation was 2004.
Okay.
And therefore, it should be replaced soon, and that's probably why it's, for the next fiscal year.
So, so we're going by age of the last improvements were done on the park, and we'll do one a year. And the 25,000 would also come out of our Parks and Rec money then? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes, ma'am.
So that would be,
That's correct, but we have two different things happening here.
Right.
The George Street dollars would be separate from the 25,000. It's my understanding that $25,000 is there for miscellaneous playing ground component replacements. So the 25,000, the George Street play set or play
Right.
structure would be in addition to the 25,000.
okay, I guess I'm confused. So we're looking at $25,000 a year to be set aside for improvements on the parks listed for those years. Is that what we're
Yes, and
looking at? Money to sit into an account, and then whatever needs to be done at that park that money would come out of there.
If that's the dollar amount you would like to establish.
Okay,
What you're
and-
seeing here, this 25,000
Right.
is already in the CIP.
Okay, so it's
already in the budget, and it's only for miscellaneous playground structure improvements.
Okay, so it's already set aside
For
that.
playgrounds.
The other 25,000 is a completely different item then?
It absolutely could be,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Because that could be for anything.
Yes.
Okay, and then if each one of these parks, the same thing, if the money isn't spent that year, we don't meet $25,000, where does that money go then?
Well, it really depends on, what else you've spent on. I mean, for instance, this year, we're spending quite a bit of dollars in putting in the new pickleball courts. And so those dollars had to come from a different area of the budget, of the Parks and Rec improvement fee budget. So those dollars could either roll, or it could be recommended that we use it for something bigger the next year if you really feel that
Okay,
it's
so at the end of that-
important to have that instead of putting money forward for the next year.
So we can look at what we've spent during that end of that budget time to see what money is left over and maybe use it for something else. And okay, I've got another question too, but I can wait.
You can go.
This recreation open space element, when was the last time this was done or we did something like this?
1999.
I'm really excited about this because we've talked about it. I'm the old timer on this committee. I said I should probably get a star or something on here, but for years we've always wanted I've always wanted some kind of direction on where Parks and Rec, what were the things that we needed to improve on or look at. This gives us a lot of direction. This is kind of like if we have a wish list, we can look here, and I see a lot of things in here which I know I've been begging for and also wanted to have addressed. So it's here in paperwork, it's updated, the park sizes, what's in the parks. This is wonderful. And so I'm very happy it's here because it gives us direction. And, when things come up, we can go to this and say, yes, this was something that was a need that came up during this evaluation done. So I'm happy about this. And there are some comments about some of the things like school sites and that I hope that we really address, and we've talked about that before, but I don't think we need to talk about the different items in here now, do we? You just want feedback on what else do you want us to do today for this?
Just to,
It's truly up to you all. We're presenting it to you in its draft format. We look forward to hearing your comments and your review of the element prior to us moving forward.
Okay,
to the
my other
planning and
question is,
zoning.
reading this, though, there were some parts, like on policy 71.1.7, mandatory land dedication, it says relocated. Where did it get relocated to? Is it somewhere else in
Oh.
this document?
No, a lot of that, what you're seeing in the red, what I had asked the consultant to do was that they had taken our existing goals, objectives, and policies and either revised them, relocated them someplace else within the matrix, correct? Or it was something new that they are proposing. So when you see relocated, it just means that it was in a different order in the 1999 version. But it's the same policy from the 1999
It's
version.
just in a different place?
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know
That
if
is
it
correct.
went somewhere else.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay.
To confuse you.
No. All right, I'm happy. I have no more questions.
so Nicole, would you like to have anything to say about,
Nope.
okay, and I'm
Kind
in
of
the
nice
same,
it didn't cost $130,000
Yes.
either.
Yeah.
I'm in the same position too, because this is a lot. I mean,
Yes.
again, like Ms. White talked about, I'm the next in line as far as being here the longest. She's the one person that's been here the longest. I'm the next in line. So, and I know this is something that we have been needing for a long period of time. So I know, because I'm a strong advocate for trying to find land and throughout the city. And we know the city of Sebastian land is kind of real small, so we don't have that much to choose from. But this kind of like allow us to be able to look at something and be able to add to it from a standpoint of what we know the city may need, if possible, to achieve. So this will help us out a great deal. So I'm going to challenge all of you guys here to be able to go back and do a little research, however you may see, and then we'll be able to like bring and have comments at our next meeting for March, and we'll be able to.
When are you looking at finalizing this, or where it will be, is it going to be presented then to council to go through? What are we looking
The
at?
next step would be for us to bring this to planning and zoning, and then they make a formal recommendation, either to approve or deny, I suppose, to the city council. And then the city council, of course, makes a formal recommendation to move it to the state. They review it for 30 days, I believe, and then they'll bring it back.
So if we don't have any problems with this, if we think this is fine the way it is, then the next meeting we would state that, and then it would go to planning and zoning to be reviewed?
That is correct. And I again, we haven't set it in any type of
Okay.
schedule, so I wouldn't want to say that it's going to be at the very next planning and zoning. We would, if you'd like, Marguerite and I have looked at other comprehensive plans, and we have some goals, objectives, and policies that we would like to recommend. If you'd like to have some of those at the next meeting, I think that would be beneficial. Okay, wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
Ms. Frazier, so we would just need to like review this after tonight, and then just bring our comments back if we have any comments, and then whatever you have going forward, you're going to bring that also to us. So
Yes, sir.
Then we could, okay, everybody else. So that's fine. That's great. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that take care of item B, section 1, 2, and 3, right? 1, 2, and 3. So at this point in time, we're going to close this portion of the meeting, and we're going to open it up for citizen input on this matter. If anyone would like to speak, you can come to.
Wait. Do you mean 2?
No, we just like no, it's item B.
With multi-year capital
We're gonna
improvement
like a-
schedule?
So again,
Do we have that on there?
We already have all those things.
yes, we went.
I can see to go over.
That's what he's going to do now. C, you want to do C?
Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and like just.
You might want to do, yeah.
Okay,
I would
we're
do
gonna just go ahead and like say again. Okay. Before we open the meeting up for citizen input on that, in this matter, we're gonna go ahead and finish item C, so we'll have it all encompassed as one, and then we'll open the meeting up for citizen input. So staff, would you like to give us an overview of item C, and that's the residential fence consideration update?
Sure. During the December meeting, the committee asked staff to look at other options for the privacy of the dog park neighbors.
Yes.
Doing so, staff got together with public facilities, and we thought that the open from dawn to dusk, the sign is by the restrooms, so it's not really visible. The consensus within staff was to make a bigger sign and put it next to the entrance where it's more visible to cars coming in. And then if people were still not abiding by these, hours of operation at the park, then they are more than welcome to call the police department and say, okay, people are here before the park is open or after the park is closed. And now with having a more visible sign, more accessible sign too, because this sign right now is by the restrooms where some people don't even notice it. So with that in mind, they can definitely call the police department, the non-emergency phone number, and complain about people showing up to the park before the park hours. This would not cost the city anything, and hopefully will address that problem of, the people showing up before the park is open.
Okay.
I was actually at the park this afternoon, and there were quite a few people there. It was really fun for me to just sit and watch small dogs, large dogs, people in and out. And I did talk to a few of the people coming out, and did mention I was coming to the meeting tonight. I don't know if any of those gentlemen are here. And just how things were going, and they were happy with everything there. I did say something about being there, because I was standing by the sign that said open 7:30, I think it was. And one of the gentlemen said, well, you know, I like to bring my dog before I go to work. And I said, well, isn't it dark out by then? And he goes, well, that's okay, I bring my flashlight. And I said, well, you know, really, this sign right here says that you should not be here before them because we have neighbors that are not happy that there are cars coming in with, so he said there were quite a few of them that did do that in the morning. So I think posting that on the front gate, you know, stating that, I think that's a good idea. They just need to understand that, you know, it's a neighborhood and the park is there for them, but they need to follow the rules. And I'm hoping that with the sign there, and maybe, you know, I hate to see anybody get called on, but there are a group of them that do come early in the morning. And I understand they want to do it before work, but they still have to follow what the rules are. So we'll see what that happens with the sign.
Okay.
Any additional comments?
Sounds good.
Okay. So at this point in time, before we open it up for regular public input, we're going to close this regular meeting right here, and we're going to open up the meeting for citizen input on items A, B, and C. So if anyone want to speak, you can come to the podium, state your name, address. Okay. Since there's no one that's going to speak, we're going to close this portion of citizen input on those two items, and we're going to now go to.
Is there any public input? There's public input on anything.
Well, only on those two items or those three items we just discussed. Okay, so at this point in time, there's no one that's going to speak. We're going to close that portion of public input, and we're going to have regular public input at this point in time. So if anyone want to come and speak from the audience on any matter, this is your time to come and speak. Yes. So, and once you come to the podium, remember to state your name and address. And then address all questions to the board. And it's 3 minutes time.
My name is Debbie Schneider, and my address is 107 Mabry Street in Sebastian. What I'd like to know is when we're getting the water fountain for the small dog park and benches that we were promised.
Okay.
I think that was brought up, that was already, I think, addressed. I think that's what we're looking at. They're already on the agenda to be added in.
And we just want to know when we're going to get them.
Marguerite, do you have an idea?
What we can do is we can, we can get with staff at the end of this meeting, and we can let staff know, and then we can be able to address it at that point in time. I mean, if you would you like to call staff to? Okay, well, we'll have Marguerite address this right here.
You know, the amenity locations were approved, or not approved, recommended by the committee to be placed in December. As I stated early during the meeting, the Public Facilities Department just reopened the Barber Street Playground, which had been closed for months. And now they're working on the mulch. I honestly couldn't say they're gonna install this fountain next week or tomorrow or Thursday. I can definitely check on a more clear date from Public Facilities, but it is, as Ms. White states, it is on their list of pendings to do.
Yes. And so what I can say, we can, I can write it down, and at the end of this meeting, I can get your name, and I can call also, but it says it's already on the list of things to do going forward. So once they, I'm not gonna say get to it, but when that comes up into play, then we'll be able to have a better idea when it's gonna be brought out there.
I would just like to have a general idea.
Okay. At the end of the meeting, I can I can get your name, or I can give your number to call. You can call personally.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Either or, yes.
Hi, my name's Sunanda Ashton. I live in Cashy Court, Sebastian. When we were here last month, although there wasn't a meeting here because there weren't enough of you, I spoke to Margarita and brought photos to show her of places in the dog park where the fence was actually broken in that dogs could escape out of it. My dog has done that once. And also really dangerous holes that were in the park. And she told me that they would be seen to the following Wednesday. That was a month ago. The Wednesday after, somebody did come to that park and attempted to repair one place the fence was broken by pulling it down and attaching it to the ground, and in doing that made two more parts of the fence, either side of it, go up and be broken again. So I'm just asking that that be done, because we've had at least 2 dogs escape through these holes. You know, small dog park, they're small dogs. I also have a large dog who escaped out of the large dog park because the double fences that are like supposed to be like that are actually like that, and my dog went straight through them. So I'd like to get that done, because it's not, we can't use it as a dog park if dogs can get out of it. It's not safe.
Is it holes actually in the fence, or is it, okay, and
The
how are
fence is broken. It's got a wire running along the bottom on the ground, kind of under the ground, and then the fence part attaches to that wire. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, the fence has come away from the wire in at least 4 or 5 different places.
Okay.
And
And
What
Marguerite,
causes that? What causes something
what,
like
yeah,
that?
what makes it do that?
I'm not
People
fence.
call
I'll tell you
I'm
what
not fence
causes that.
person.
It's the people that's mowing the grass.
Oh, yeah, oh,
Okay,
that's right.
The
Yeah, it
lawnmowers
does
are
look like things have
doing it.
hit them.
okay. So,
And the double gates that open in the big dog park, that's, I'm assuming, where they get the lawnmowers in through. And are supposed to be closing like this, and they're closing like
oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah. There's just a
Okay.
massive hole there.
And as far as like, I guess, and there are numbers on the signs there that the individuals, when you're out there and you notice anything that's wrong out there, that you can call a number for staff?
I did.
Okay,
We've called, and I spoke in person
okay,
to Margarita, and she said it didn't have to go through a committee or anything. She said that
okay,
was
yes.
maintenance, and someone would be right out to do it, and no one has come out to do
Yeah.
it.
I can
Well,
write,
one person has come and hasn't
Okay.
done it.
Is that something, Marguerite, that'll have to be replaced, that fence part, do you think?
Well, I had public facilities go out there, not necessarily the very next Wednesday, but the next week. They went out there, they checked. They came back stating that it had been repaired. I'm not going to say repaired at 100%. I am not going to say, you know, to what extent. I didn't get specification from them.
Can I just...
I'm making a note of the comments made today so that I can go back to them, have them do a complete evaluation of this fence, see if it is a broken fence, see if it is the lawnmowers that are making this or causing this. It was my understanding from public facilities that that had been addressed. I'm not going to say how it was addressed because I honestly don't know,
Okay.
but I've made a note.
Okay,
that
thank
makes
you.
Well, it wasn't addressed, and one of the members of the park actually went out there to meet those people. I mean, we didn't know for sure they were coming, but she made sure she was in the park at the time when they came to do the repairs.
okay,
And, well, I won't say, I'll let her, well, it was Debbie who just talked. She showed them where the holes were, and the guy that came out just looked at one of them only and didn't do anything with the rest.
well, will you
So
allow?
they did know where they were.
Okay.
But will you allow some time now going forward to address this issue? Then we can be able to go forward. I mean, because it's something that is easy. I'm not going to say it's an easy fix, but I'm just saying we know that it's a situation right now, and like anything, I'm trying to say if you can allow us some time to get this right, because we know now that it was looked at initially, and now if you can allow some time to just work on this right here, because now Marguerite is aware of it, and then we can I'm saying staff is aware of it now, so if you can allow some time to correct the issue going forward, we would appreciate it.
Can I say something?
Yes.
There's a lot of parks in this city, and there's a lot of parks, I mean, I am acutely aware
Yes.
of some things that need to be done. At the Barber Street Sports Complex, I waited with 500 children playing ball there, waited for things to get done. And sometimes you just have to have a little patience.
Yes.
And I know that's hard to do, but I see that the dog park comes in, and you guys are a pretty well-formed group that will come and say what's going on there, you know? And I just feel like you need to be a little patient, because there's a lot of parks in this town.
Yes.
That creative playground is equally as important as that dog park. There's little children playing there. So I'm not unsympathetic, because I have dogs and I go to the dog park here and there. But it just takes a little patience.
We have
Yes.
over 30 parks in the city.
We have a lot of
Yes.
parks, and not so many people taking care of them, so, you know, a little
Well, I'd
patience
just
would be
like to
nice.
say that we've been very patient. We actually first brought up the dog park last summer, if you,
Yes.
I know you remember. We've come to these meetings over
Every
and
month.
over again. So we're not saying, okay, we just found this, we want it done tomorrow. We're being very patient. And I'm not saying that dogs or children are more important. It depends who owns which, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, a dog park is the only place you can let your dog off the leash to run, supposedly. And this dog park isn't secure for dogs.
Well, again, we just said,
That's what I'm saying. We have been very, very patient, and we
Okay.
do a lot of things ourselves there. Just last week, a number of people from the small dog park actually took it upon themselves to clean the whole length of the white fence in the park.
Good.
Which, you know,
and just as the chairman, I'm just asking, could you just have, I know you have patience, I'm just saying that now staff is aware of the additional damage that exists right now, so we're gonna go forward, like, after the meeting, which is, can't do anything now, but tomorrow going forward, and like, that we can be able to, as far as a reason, a rationale, I think that's the only best way we can go about right now. And we do understand your concerns, and the committee concerns too, but now we just have to have some time to be able to correct the items that's not properly.
yeah, I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying. I'm also, as I just said, I did give Margarita photographs of all the places where there were holes in the fence. And, you know, we'd be happy to meet with the person that comes to the park, as we did the last time, and say, this is where these are. But she could actually show them those photographs that I gave her a copy of and say, okay, all these places are where there are holes in the fence and deep ditches that dogs can get under the fence from.
Well, would you mind, like, I can try calling tomorrow, then if someone's available tomorrow, then I can like, get your number at the end of this meeting, I can call you, and then we can try to bring this to an end tomorrow, if we can do it tomorrow.
Well, let
So-
me ask, Marguerite, what would work the easiest for you? Having somebody from your department go down and look? What do you think would help with this?
What I'm going to do is, as I said, I'm going to speak with a park supervisor tomorrow
Okay.
and find out why it is, you know, from what I hear tonight, that these concerns have not been fully addressed.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I am going to make sure that he goes out. I did present these pictures to him. So I am going to make sure that he not only, you know, goes and looks for gaps, but more so maybe do a complete evaluation of the fence. See if it's a, you know, if it's a complete fence possibly that needs to be repaired, and then take it from there.
And then also address the lawn cutting if that seems to be
And
That's what I was thinking, if-
address, you know, find out
Weed
why,
whack
if
it.
that's the case,
Yeah.
why they're not being more
Okay.
careful.
And at the next meeting, then you'll bring back, maybe, do you want to give us any feedback, or?
Sure,
Okay.
I'll bring it back, feedback.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So you're okay?
That's good, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am. Would you spell your name for me, please?
Sunanda.
Thank you.
Evening, my name's Hamilton Edwards. I live at 182 Easy Street, right around the corner. I had a different thing I wanted to talk about, but your comment, Miss Webster, I'm not sure if I took it correctly, but I think everyone in here is aware that there are a lot of parks here, but that doesn't mean, I don't think you meant, that doesn't mean that y'all don't want to hear our concerns about our particular park that we go to.
No.
And I would think that, that's the whole thing of communities, that communities, get together and say, this isn't right at our park, or we need this to stop at our park, or we need this done at our park. So just because we're vocal about it, I don't think there should be a ranking like where your dogs and, these people have kids at the parks and all. So anyway, I probably took it incorrectly.
Yeah, you
but-
probably took it
yeah.
incorrectly, because that's not what I meant. I said I'm
Because it's just the
sympathetic.
same as all the parks and
There's-
that you have.
There's only so many
jurisdiction.
people working
You're right.
to be able to maintain the park.
That's right.
If they're all on the creative playground,
Yeah.
they can't work at the other park.
Well, that's the thing, though.
That's what I'm
that-
saying.
That we have been vocal for lots of
have.
months now. And I hear what Marguerite's saying. And I do believe that everything will get done in a period of time, of course. But just want to point that out, that this isn't, something new, okay? When you say to have patience, this isn't something new. But what I wanted to talk about is, Ms. White, you said you were at the park today. I just wondered if you noticed something missing on the small dog side. My number one issue, there are trees, but there's no shade. We have no shade, not little shade, we have no shade. I think Mr. Sunnycap said that, we have trees, so therefore we have shade at the last meeting. You've got to come and see the type of trees that are there and see the narrowness of our park, that we can't get outside the white fence to be under the shade of those trees. It's just the nature of the thing. And so there was no shade structure approved for the small side. So therefore, the only shade spot is to sit behind the trunk of the tree, and you have to keep moving. Everybody else is in the sun. That one person can kind of keep scooting to the bench, and that's all during the time when the sun, is kind of coming from the south of us. Now, in the summertime, we do have some good shade from the trees. It's hot, but it's shade. But I want to emphasize to you, there is no shade on the small dog side. It's just the way it's set up. It's the type of trees that were planted. It's the size of those trees losing their leaves. So one person gets to sit in the shade from about 2 until sunset each day. Other folks, I know someone sits under an umbrella. I stand up against the fence so I can get a little of the shade of the fence. I can't sit at the benches. Now, to have a park that doesn't have shade on it doesn't seem, it doesn't seem like it's a big thing to take care of. But when you voted in December to do changes to the, to make some improvements, changes, there was no money apparently for a shade structure to be put up on the small dog side of any kind. And what was counted as a shade structure is a little bench off over by the fence that separates two parks. It has a little rooftop thing. It doesn't give any shade. You could sit under it. There's no shade because where the sun is.
You have 45 seconds, sir.
I'm sorry?
45 seconds.
Okay. And that's it. We need shade.
Okay.
And we would like for y'all to do something to help on that.
Okay, if we're going further, but we have already addressed that. With the benches, it's going to be shade going to be brought there because
Benches don't provide shade.
I'm sorry, but I'm saying, but we discussed a few items in our past meeting.
Yes.
That it's going to be a few things going to be brought to that park.
That's right. I know.
And again, we just have to wait for it to come there. I mean, I know everyone have patience, so we're just trying to say those items were talked about, and it's going to be brought there. We're just asking the community.
You need to look back at the minutes. There is no shade structure, no shade being provided for the small dog park. So when I'm being patient, what am I being patient for? You did not vote for any shade to be provided on the small dog side. None.
Let me ask a question. Marguerite, I know that we're doing benches and some things for the large dog. We are going to do a shade
Yes,
for the large one. The small one, if that's something, then we have to put that into a budget item for the next time. That's what I'm thinking. Is that what we have to do? But I also want to tell the dog park, and I'm just going to give you my opinion right now, is that we've got a lot of stuff going on in the city. And the dog park, I know we're putting in a dog fountain on the small side. We're going to talk about doing cement for dogs that are getting bathed, so it doesn't have mud. We're putting in tables, we're putting in benches, we're putting in a sun. We have put quite a bit into that dog park in the last few years, and I'm a dog person, but we have put in a lot in that park. My suggestion right now is, and I can feel that you're feeling that you need that, but I'm also going to tell you we have playgrounds that don't have sun over the playground sets, and kids are there playing on that during the days too. My personal opinion is that we are pretty much, we've done a lot for the dog park. And I think, you know, if people want to have more benches and more tables, they should probably do what we do in some of the other parks. You can donate benches. You can donate tables. We do that in Easy Street down at the river. You can do a memorial bench or whatever, because we've spent quite a bit of money. I mean, I was on this committee trying to find a place for the dog park, and we were rejected by a lot of neighborhoods. Nobody wanted the dog park. It was a battle, and that's why I'm also going to say those people that are going at 6:30 in the morning, and the neighbors are complaining about the headlights and people at the park before it's actually open. We have to be friendly to the people that live around this dog park. They live there. We're lucky to have that park in that neighborhood. So those people who are coming at 6:30 in the morning,
5:30.
or even earlier, they're giving the dog park a bad taste. And I'm serious about having a hard time finding a dog park. If we ever want to open up another one in this town, it's going to be really hard for us to do that just because people are not following the rules. So if you're at the dog park, I wish that you would talk to those people that come early in the morning and say that they're ruining it or giving us a bad taste in the neighborhood because they're not following the guidelines. So I'm going to leave that up to you.
I hope I have a few seconds still left because you were talking during it.
But the other thing is we've put quite a bit of time and money in the dog park, and I know that we're adding some new things. We're going to do a separate watering, and we're doing some cement. We did when you walk into the park, I think we did cement so that the grass, because it wasn't, we've done quite a bit of
A
things.
restroom. There's a restroom.
Yeah, there's a bathroom there. We have the walking trail. So I feel like we're kind of at the point now where we'll do those few things, those things that have to get done. And the shade thing, we can put that onto a budget item, you know, maybe this next budget, because it's not cheap to put up those shade areas. And that could be something that you can request, and we can do that.
You've seen the shade that they have in the Vero Beach Dog
Yeah,
Park.
but
There's just
you-
four, no, I'm not talking about the way they pay for it, but it's just 4 poles with a piece of canvas.
Yeah, but it's
You know.
still something that has to come,
That's right,
money has
that's
to
right.
come from someplace.
That's right.
And the dog park right now, I'm feeling, we've done a lot for that park, and I'm
So you're telling us to be quiet because you've done
No.
enough for it.
No, I'm just
I mean,
saying,
that is what you're saying, basically.
Not to be,
no, what I'm
You've
saying
done
is,
so much for it, so therefore,
no,
you know,
what I'm
it's-
saying is that we can put this shade item into the next budget.
Please do.
But if people are wanting more tables and benches and things like that, they might want to consider doing it as a donation, like we do for other parks.
Yes, I agree.
Okay,
Yes.
so, but also talk to your people in the morning that are coming too early in the morning, that they need to be neighborhood friendly because the park is there. And so I'm just saying, we can look at that shade item, and that is something we can consider on the next budget. We'll get the fence fixed for the dog park, and we'll get the water hookup and the cement slab and those things in there. But we're about to the point, I think, that, you know, we're really not going to add too much more to the
That's what I
park
was
right
saying.
now.
That's what I was
Because the
saying.
other thing
Okay.
is we also have to maintain that park. It's not just items, but it's maintaining. So that was I don't know if anyone else wants to talk to it, but that's just my feeling right now.
but what we're going to do is we're going to continue with public input. The public input. Good.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Michelson. I live in West Lakeview Drive in Sebastian. How much does a bench cost to donate? Like, if we wanted to gather some money together, what's the amount that we would need?
I know that I had to do it for my father through the city.
Ballpark.
Marguerite, do you have an idea on a bench? Because it's the cement slab and the bench is ordered through a company.
The benches that I purchased for the dog park that haven't been installed yet were between $230 to $250
And
each.
were those a cement slab put underneath?
I'm sorry?
No.
It's not cement
No,
slabbed
it doesn't
underneath?
need, no.
No, okay.
Oh, you have your bench.
Excuse me, sir.
ordered, but-
Excuse me, sir, could you direct all questions towards the
Okay.
board?
Did she just say she has benches that are ordered but haven't been installed yet?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So remember, like, all the public, please direct all questions towards the board, not staff.
Good evening.
Can you speak into the mic?
My name is Joanna Grant, and
Thank you.
I live at 480 Seagrass Avenue here in Sebastian. I've been a resident of this community since 1990. Now I am retired, and I want to enjoy the dog park. And I know we've been here many, many times, and we were at the understanding that the shade structure was put into this coming year's budget. And that's what we have been waiting for. We went to the city council, they wrote everything down. You know how hot it is here. We definitely need that shade. Jim, you go there, you know how hot it is there. You can tell them how desperately we need some shade.
It gets hot in the summer.
Yes, and water for the
I
dogs.
got something to say about
I
that.
mean, we're mostly all taxpayers here that go to the park. We're good, you know, community people. We take dogs to the rescue dogs. My dog is a rescue dog. A lot of the dogs are rescue dogs. They have issues. They need to go out and interact with other dogs, other people. So I would appreciate if you could really consider the shade structure and the water availability for the small dogs. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak about anything?
My name is Lise Howard. I live at 733 Carnival Terrace, Sebastian. There are problems between the small dog park lot. Who cares? The main thing is caring for our animals. No one has mentioned the idea that we don't have enough parking for handicapped people. Now, I understand your name, they name you Sonny.
Right.
Okay, well, you're the one that told me to kiss your ass, and I told
Excuse
you I wasn't.
excuse me, ma'am.
Well,
Excuse me, like,
tell them what you
we
told
gotta
me
have Robert
first.
rules of order, so if you
Okay, but,
want
okay,
to
the
speak
thing
politely
is,
with the...
we only have 2 parking for handicapped people.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
if you look at the audience, you will see many more than 2. Okay, so what we did is we tried to work it out with 3. You know, try to get at least 3 spots. Now, maybe that's against the law, I don't know. The thing is we have tried to do that. We were talking about it, maybe they could, on the back side of where the parking is, they could work something out. On the right, there is this table that nobody uses. And you know, they took away those 2 extra spots by putting that table there, okay? Whatever, I'm just saying we don't have enough room for handicapped people. And people that are handicapped come to the dog park. I don't care if it's large or small. These people need place to be able to park their car, not down at the very end. Mrs. White, you said you were at the dog park today. Now, there are times when that park is full all the way to the end. And you feel very badly for someone that's handicapped to have to park all the way there because they have to take their dog. And they, you know, it's just a big problem there. Yes, we need shade. Now, you said if we donated, are you talking about donation of funds Or are you talking about like what happened a week ago when people just turned around and said, we're going to clean this wall? There are divots now, I'm not saying this was done by the dogs either. Some of it was done by those lawnmowers that we were talking about, the fence. The fence is damaged not by the dogs. The dogs don't turn around and they can't do it. Point is, it's the lawnmowers. And every week it seems to be one more problem. So if they would not damage the fence, you wouldn't have to fix it. So if we, the people, pitch in, help out, fill in these holes, are you objecting to that, or are you willing to say, go ahead, fix these things? Is that against the law? Or, what kind of leeway are you giving us? Or that we just want to do the best? I don't think it's the large dogs or the small.
You have 15
it's
seconds.
all the people.
15 seconds, ma'am.
Excuse me?
15 seconds.
Okay. That's all I really had to
Okay,
say.
and what we can do is I can't say you can go out and start fixing anything because it's a city ordinance that we got to make sure that's safety, because whatever you fix, we got to make sure it falls within the city. So I would have to say you have to contact the city staff before you do anything, because of anything that anyone do, if it's not through the city, it's not right at all. So you have to contact city staff before you do anything.
Okay.
All right, so if we can, if you want to wait till the end of the meeting, we can get the numbers on the website also for city staff.
I have a
Okay.
question, Marguerite. How many handicap parkings are there? 2? Okay, and I know that we're required to have that many for the amount of parking spaces total there. Can we get 2 more parking? I think I agree with her with that table that's up towards the fence. If we could get 2 more handicap parking in there, even though we have the required, are we
People
able?
use the table.
But just move it over.
People use the table.
There's no cement there. It's grass.
There's a sidewalk there.
Okay, well, if there's any way that we can get another, at least 1 handicap parking, if you guys can look at that. And it was full today. I was there, the cars went all the way down, and I parked even on the side just so I could get out and look. So maybe that's something we can look at, is trying to get at least another one in there.
Mrs. White, the other thing is when it's completely full, you have people coming. And where do they park? They park in the wrong places. We don't want them to park there, but that's what they do.
Okay.
They just turn around and they go on the grass.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to keep off the grass, but we are just in the park doing our thing, but we're not going to go out and face these people and say, you can't park there.
And that's, you
And
shouldn't do that.
again, we just ask proper etiquette, and we know when you're dealing with a lot of individuals, proper etiquette may not be applied, but we thank you for your time, ma'am.
We thank you very much. We
Yes.
appreciate everything you all do. But the only way we can say is to say something to
Yes,
you.
ma'am, and we encourage you too. That's why we have citizen input.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on any matter? If there's no other individuals, we're going to close this portion of our meeting, and thank you for coming. So we're going to go down to new business. New business is going to be item A, City of Sebastian Land Development Code. Marguerite, would you like to speak upon that?
Yes, during our work with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, this was brought up. It's actually recommendations from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and so I don't know if the committee had an opportunity to look at these.
I don't think so.
But it would, it would of course have to go before the Planning and Zoning
Okay.
Commission. And it basically clarifies. It makes it, clearer, obviously, and we didn't know if the committee had any input.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, what occurred was that as our consultant was reviewing the existing comprehensive plan element, they of course looked at the land development code that corresponds with that element, which is this, and they found several discrepancies. And so in their attempt to just clarify and make correct this land development code as it relates to the planning element. So that's what these yellow marks are.
Okay.
These highlighted marks. But what's interesting is that something I didn't know, of course, I'm a newbie to the city, so there's many things I don't know. However, one of the things that I did find out is that we had this ordinance in place for quite a few years, and that our new development, you know, when you have a PUD or a site plan coming in, not just individual homes, but for a subdivision, that they are required to set aside a certain amount of land for recreational purposes, and that they get credit should they develop it into a private park or if they should donate funds in lieu of land. That is completely separate from our Parks Recreation Fund. I just wanted to make sure that this committee understood that.
Okay.
Okay.
So this new business is for us to be able to review the actual development plan?
The land development code, again, is an existing land development code, and it marries with, dovetails with the comprehensive plan element.
Okay.
We are just showing you the highlighted items that clarify that ordinance, and if you have no questions or comments, we will pass it forward to the Planning and Zoning Board for their
Okay.
review.
So would the committee like to look this over too so everyone okay? Okay, so, yes,
I have confidence that they know what they're doing.
okay, so we have as a board, we have no comments at all, and we thank you for making this a part of our new business. Now, number 9 is staff matters. Staff matters is recreational impact fees ordinance.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Me again. Once again, it has come up several times by this committee and from the City Council in regard to clarification for the recreational impact fee ordinance. And so we have it in front of you this evening just to point out a few items within the ordinance for your understanding and clarification, and to once again emphasize, if you had missed it or not, our new city attorney, James Stokes, had made a recommendation to the city council, a clarification to the city council, I'm sorry, regarding the recreational impact fee and what it could be spent on. And I think it's important that this committee understands what these dollars, how they're allocated and how they can be spent. If you read the ordinance, if you look at the whereases in an ordinance, it kind of establishes for you why this ordinance is being put in place, correct? And so you just reviewed our growth management plan, the comp plan, and it established levels of service. And these are state mandated levels of service, correct? And so what this ordinance stated as it was set out is that none of the levels of service in our existing parks should be reduced, correct? Even if that area of the city is not growing and generating the rec fees as quickly as another area of the city, that we should always maintain that level of service in those other zones. I think in front of you all, you should have a copy of the map, the zone map, which we will be improving. And it shows the different areas of the city. That is one of the points that we wanted to make sure you're aware of. And what Mr. Stokes pointed out, our attorney, was that these dollars, I'm going to read his words so that you're not using my words, is that the city code specifically and expressly permits recreational impact fees to be utilized for, among other things, improvements to our recreational facilities. Specifically, the language states that collected monies may be used to acquire, construct, or provide recreational improvements or facilities. So the limitation set forth in the code is that monies collected from developments in one recreational zone cannot be used on a neighborhood park in another recreational zone. However, that does not hold for community parks, because those parks, community parks, are used throughout the community.
Okay.
And so you can use these dollars for improvements to the facilities in these parks. And I think it's important then to go back to what we were talking about in the beginning regarding the CIP and actually having a dedicated line item for those specific low-dollar improvements that this committee would like to do in the different parks. Excuse me. And to recognize that, you know, there are 4 zones in the city. I mean, we're talking neighborhood parks and community parks, but the 4 zones in the cities really are for the neighborhood parks, correct?
Yes.
And so, for instance, and I think this is interesting statistics, is that in the dog park, in the last calendar year from January to December, we have spent over $9,000. And those dollars were not allocated to facility improvements. So these dollars were taken out of our park facilities, our ground maintenance budget, our vehicles and equipment budget. So that means that we are taking dollars out of expenditures that we need in the city to maintain all of the other parks. And I'm not picking on the dog park, I'm just bringing this up as an example that in the future, if we actually allocate a line item for small dollar improvements, then we can even cut it up into zones if you'd like. I'm just throwing these dollars out there. But let's just say 5,000 for A, 5,000 for B, 5,000 for C. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So then the parks in those areas, there'd be $5,000 to spread if they need them. Some of them may not in that one year. I'm not trying to put words or ideas in anybody's mouth, but for instance, shade structures can be over $500. And we do not have that in the budget. And certainly we can go to the city council and say, where do you want us to pull it from? But that is not in the budget. So I'm encouraging this committee to really seriously consider in next year's budget having that as a line item, a dollar amount that then can be allocated and evenly and fairly passed out through the different parks in the city.
And when can we make that happen?
When do we make that happen? We're starting the budget process right now, and of course the budget year is October 1st through September 31st, I'm sorry. So that would be the new budget year, and I'm certainly not suggesting that we stop making any improvements to parks or small dollar items, improvement to parks, but please just be cognizant that this is not a line item in your budget, and so when we make promises or, recommendations for improvements to these parks, it has to come from somewhere.
Yes.
And so I just want you to be very much aware of that.
Okay.
And I can't, Margarita and I are just staff. It is only the city manager and the city council who determines where those dollars are spent.
And then but council would be the one that would determine what amount it would be. So we could just say $5,000 to be put in there or whatever amount.
We can ask
we
for
can
that
ask.
when the budget comes to us.
Yes.
So you could remind us that because I think we're probably all in agreement, I would
Yes.
imagine, that we want to do that.
Okay.
For me, I think it's 25,000 across the board because one park may have, one zone has more parts than another zone.
Yes.
So if you're not limited, then you can maybe spread it around where it needs to be.
And then if the money is not used or utilized, it'll carry over that amount be added on to whatever $25,000 or whatever amount they come up with? for the-
Potentially, yes.
Yes, so which would be, if you don't use it, then it'd be a little bit more in case something do happen.
So,
And then if we run out of money, we can say,
Yeah.
we're sorry, we
Yeah.
really want to put you up a
yeah.
Whatever,
So,
whatever.
dome for your park or whatever.
So if that
we can afford it.
25,000 does get to be a line item for us to use, and we don't have to go to council to use it, right? We can recommend it to you guys or
Correct,
whatever.
and again, I want to continue to clarify that 25,000 would be in the budget that is adopted by council. So
Right.
that, at that time, there will be a line item
Right.
for small dollar facility improvements in the area parks.
So then, if this shade thing comes up next year, that money is in there, and if we decide that that is something important, then we would go ahead and do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Unless we put it in the regular budget, right?
Well,
The regular budget.
you mean,
Like,
for
you know,
Parks
when
and
we-
Rec?
Yeah.
But that-
When we're doing, but I would think those items in Park and Rec are for bigger things, like the playground or things like that that are major.
The Parks Recreation fee is what we're talking about, correct? Because the maintenance budget comes out of the general fund.
No, I think,
Most of the Parks and Rec budget comes out of the general fund. We are talking about improvements to the parks, and that comes out of the Parks Recreation fee.
That's what I thought. So like when we, every year we have the paperwork and it says what's going to be done.
right, the big
So many
things,
years out.
like
That's-
the ball thing that we're doing.
Right.
And the next year might be the bathroom. Those are the large items, to me, those are large
Yes.
items. But the
Yes.
25,000 would be budgeted that when things come up during the year that aren't big items, then we have monies at least to use for that. And that would, I think, would be pretty handy to have. So an issue like this comes up, we as a committee can talk about it, we agree that it's worth the, whatever the price is, and then we can go ahead and do it right then.
Yes.
Okay.
And not take dollars out of your maintenance
Out of
general
that.
fund.
Yes.
Which then compromises what you're spending on other parks. So, you know, you need to be cognizant that what you take out for one park
Right.
is possibly compromising another park,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, okay.
I think we also need to remember that whatever we do add does have to be maintained from then on, too. So we have to be careful with what we're purchasing
Right.
with any
I
money.
have a question on this impact fee worksheet, because I'm not quite sure. Can you go through, like, the tennis courts? It says 1 per 2,000, and then the cost is $40,000 each. Is that for each court? Is that an estimate? Is that 1 per 2,000 people? One court for the amount of people that,
Oh, I see what you're looking at. Yes, this was put into place with the ordinance in 2001. So they were going off of, again, the state levels of service and a typical cost per, you know, per facility. And so that's how they came up with their impact fee for, per residential unit of $975. That's how they came up with that.
but what does that 1 per, does that mean one tennis court,
No, I'm
like
sorry,
per
one- yeah,
2,000 people?
Correct, that is correct,
That's what
yes.
they're averaging for the population that it could be, and that each court was about $40,000?
That is correct.
Okay, all right.
So that's all staff matters? That's the last staff matter?
Yes, staff would like to remind the committee and the public that the Easter egg hunt is on March 31st
Okay.
at 10 a.m. Usually lasts 2 hours, 10 to 12. So if the committee can let staff know, if hopefully you'll be there to support.
I think we should do a name right now.
I think so, too.
Who wants to work at the Easter egg? I'll volunteer to go,
I'll go too, but you don't have to like dress as a bunny or anything.
only if you want to.
Oh, you make a good bunny.
Wait, how about Sunny? You gonna be
Sure,
there?
I'll be here.
And how about
Yeah, include Jake.
anyone else?
I'm going to be in Pensacola, I'm going to be in Pensacola, so if I return from Pensacola in time, I'll...
And Nicole?
I'll be out of town.
Oh.
It's a vacation week.
And what are we doing? We're going to be helping with the egg hunt and giving out things?
Yes, just assisting staff with children. Staff already has a bunny, so no worries there, no worries there.
But if you want to go somewhere and buy cheap headgear for like ears or something, you're welcome to that
10
idea.
o'clock?
Yes,
All
and just for the record, I'm writing down that Miss White, Miss Webster, and Mr. Sunnycap will be
Can we
attending.
get a reminder too?
Yes, can you send a
I'm sorry?
reminder?
A reminder?
Sure, yes.
And do you have an age category for like
The elderly?
50 on up for us that we can enter?
I think it is divided by age categories.
She wants it for her
years.
age.
Oh, no, that's a different event.
They can't afford
You
those
know,
prizes.
that is a different event,
That would
sorry.
take too long. All right.
And also, Ms. Webster had asked about the photos, about taking pictures during these special events. We inquired, and there actually has to be a photo and video permission of release form that has to be distributed, and I would need somebody there to have the parent sign and submit, just to make sure it's
That's
you
a
know,
good
giving
idea.
permission, because they are minors. Also, staff wanted to ask the committee if they'd, I mean, we don't know if the committee members print these agenda packets at home, and if that's the case, I can make a note. This is in an effort to save trees. If not, I wanted to find out if the committee had a problem with me printing, you know, double-sided, just to save paper. I don't know if,
Because, I mean, if it's going to be this much, I can, if it's smaller, I know, this is one exception right here for today, but if it's smaller, I don't mind printing it at home, but this
Can
amount
we-
right here, I can't.
Can we just let you know, like when you
Yes.
send out the agenda, let me know if you want me to do your packet?
Yes.
I think,
okay, so play it by ear.
Yeah.
Play it by ear.
Because I
All
mean,
right.
if it's smaller, I don't mind printing smaller, but this is a lot.
Two-sided seems fine.
Yes, two-sided would be great, two-sided.
All right, so double-sided and
Yes.
play it by ear.
Yes.
Okay, that's all staff has.
So we have board members' matters, and we'll start with Sunny. Have any?
Yeah, I got some things. First of all, the gentleman with the shade situation, I did say that there's shade trees, no room for a shade shelter. But I also sent some diagrams to Margarita. If we just take the fence, not buy any more fence, just move it and square it off, that would give them a table. And also, I believe there's room now to put a shade shelter in the back. So but I've sent Margarita my thoughts and the diagrams. But I think that would be a situation, because they're upset that the big dog side's getting a shade shelter and they're not. I think that's the problem.
Well, until it's in the
Sorry,
budget, can't we
Mr.
just
Chair.
buy the 10 by 10 pop-ups like all the football people do on the sidelines?
no, we don't
But
want
I
to be
think-
responsible.
Mr. Chair,
No, no, not us. They
Can we
can
put
bring
it
their own.
like in the middle
Yes.
where it's covered part on the little dog park and part on the big dog park?
Well, if you look at the trees over there, it's
It's hard to do.
the way the fence is, it crowds it too much. But if they just square it off, it won't cost you anything to buy a fence, you just move it. And they've moved it once before to make it bigger, and it just makes it a little bigger. But I think it'd be big enough in the back to put a shade shelter, and would also give them another place to sit.
Will that be out of our 25,000?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the staff would truly appreciate some directive here.
Yes.
After all we've discussed this evening, we have not bought or purchased any shade shelters. We have been told that they may cost about $500. Is this committee suggesting that we need to spend over $1,000 for 2 shade structures for the dog park at this time? Because if that is what you are advising and recommending, we do need to take that to the city manager and the city council or the city council to get their approval to take it
So
out of
there is no
somewhere
shade
else.
shelter for the big dog park?
We have not purchased
Okay, I thought we
anything of
did.
that manner.
And I like stand corrected too, because I said something that I thought something, because something was already being purchased for, and it was shelter, so I made a wrong gesture about that, so I like to, I apologize for that, because I thought, I know we had talked about the benches, and we talked about a shade shelter at one of the past meetings, so
And those
I
have been
apologize.
purchased.
I apologize for saying something that, I mean, when the one gentleman was talking, I thought we had already addressed that. So I feel bad after knowing it wasn't addressed. So now, like, I mean, but again, Ms. Frazier, so we, as a committee, like, I mean, taking that before council, I mean,
Well, I don't know.
where do the members stand? I mean, because I mean, if it's something like that, I mean, if we haven't done anything, I know it has to go before council before we do anything. So
In this instance, we could just bring it to the city manager, who then would make the decision whether he would like to escalate it up or not. But all I'm pointing out to this committee is that then I need to take $1,000 out of some other line item, and I will have to figure that out. So if that's what the committee would like staff to do, we're just asking for direction.
Can I ask, okay, when the
Are we looking
budget's,
for 2 of them?
when is the next budget starting? I mean, that we can.
October 1st will be the new budget year.
October.
That is correct.
That's when we, if everything goes through, we'll have that 25,000 in there.
That's correct.
Why can't we just wait,
but because I would say
address it then?
October
Oh, do it
31st?
then. Yeah.
October 31st?
Well, that's the end of
I
summer,
mean, yes,
though.
but summertime would just, I mean, we haven't even reached the summertime. Well,
That's
it
right.
I have
feels
to
like the
say,
summertime.
can I
So,
just
mean,
say, and again, I'm not unsympathetic, I have dogs, I like the dog park. The dog park's gotten almost $10,000 just in 1 year, so nobody's neglecting the dog park, in my opinion. The dog park is taken care of, maintained to the best of everybody's ability, so the fences need to be fixed, fix the fence. I fought for, I don't know how many years, at that baseball field for shade cloths over the bleachers. Even just covering, the Little League had to pay for, Little League paid, I think, $7,500 for the netting over the ball fields. The city did not pay for that. They don't maintain, well, I think they stretch it out or whatever. We still never got shade over there, and that's a wide open, no shade park. So, I mean, they can just might have to deal with it until we can have it
It is a
to do
dog
it.
park, it's not a people park.
Right, and not that dogs aren't important, because I don't want my dogs out there sweating either, but I'm not gonna take my dog out and go hang out at noon in the middle of the summer.
Right.
So,
For me, I'm against,
so right now, we're just gonna like table this and like wait for a little, sometime in the future?
Out of
we
the
can budget it properly.
25,000
In the
that we
future,
have.
for the, when the budget comes into play in October?
And then we
Okay.
could do it for the small and large at the same
Okay,
time.
I mean, as a consensus, we'll go ahead and
Okay.
wait for the new
but I
budget.
really don't want anybody to take this as a
Right.
front against the dog park. It's just being reasonable.
So, Ms. Frazier, I mean, as a committee, we're gonna just go ahead and like, just wait for the budget to come in, then we'll be able to get 2 for both parks. So we don't have to worry about trying to take money from here, take money from there, so I think that would be the most feasible thing. That's cool.
Wonderful.
Yes. So we'll,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the rest
Thank
of
you
them
very
are
much.
$1,000.
That helps clarify things
Okay.
for us. Thank you.
All right.
then like, so,
I got one
Ms.
more.
Webster, okay, Sunny?
Marguerite, the boardwalk back here, did you ever get in touch with the commissioner about getting that cleaned and repaired?
No, I will actually follow up on that. I know I've left a couple of messages, but I will follow up as to, where we
Okay,
can.
last time it was Joe Fletcher, he's the commissioner. He's the one got it done for us. And this is his district, that's his area. And it's also election time this year. Also, the dog park, the city workers did a great job on the path with the weeds and trimming it. Really looks good. Also in Riverview Park this weekend, the 3rd, which will be a Saturday, is the Wildlife Festival again. Remind people of that. And that's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Ms. Webster?
I think I said everything I needed to say. I probably should shut up now. I'm good, thanks.
Ms. White?
When I did go to the dog park today, I was kind of disappointed in the condition of the parking lot itself. And I don't think it's that old of a parking lot. And I'm not sure who put it in, if we have any kind of warranty on it or what, but there is quite a few big potholes and things in that lot. It's going to have to be repaired, filled in, or whatever, but I'm not sure who we contracted it out, but it's not in very good shape.
I think the city used ground blacktop that they have in storage.
Yeah, it's really in bad shape, so that would be something. Easy Street Park lights. I know it's been a constant problem, but one half of the park, I think mainly on the north side, is having a harder time staying lit, and people do use that park a lot. So I know it's a constant, and I'm not sure why we have such problems, but. And the other thing is with the signs, we were talking about in the proposal for doing uniform signs for all the parks. Are we not wanting to keep the sign with the pelican on it with the name of the park? Like Easy Street has the pelican, it says Easy Street Park. Is that what we're looking at is for all the parks? Is that kind of model?
I would believe so. I mean, no decision has been made, but certainly we would want the city logo.
Yeah, and I would like my
some kind of consistency with, the park signs. And of course, we certainly aren't suggesting that we're going to go rip out signs that are in good shape and,
Right.
and doing their job. but we have found, and the consultant found, that there are many parks that have no
Right.
signs or not consistent,
Right.
and it just really brings that compatibility into the community.
And I think
it's a
those
nice
signs
look.
with the pelican on it with the name of the park is one of my favorite looking at.
Looks nice.
And that's all I have.
Okay. I can't pronounce your last name, so. Custis.
I think I saw some sort of some kind of sign by the river that showed other parks. Was there a new sign put by the river recently?
Is it a bicycle park sign?
I could have been somewhere else, but I swear I was here.
Was it in the city of Sebastian?
I thought so. Where it had like where the other parks are.
That's that map that we did.
For the bike trails?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really neat because you were talking about signs and, incorporating them all. So maybe put that in the other park. So while you're at another park, you can see where the other parks are.
And
I
I'll
thought
ask.
that was great.
I'll ask public facilities because they are supposed to keep track of that. Replenish these at our parks for the community. So I'll make a note
Yeah.
to follow up on that.
I thought it was really neat.
And Matt. And I want to thank your department, because I know that you get a lot of calls and complaints from and you do a good job, and you don't always hear that all the time.
I know.
So I appreciate it, and you get back to me if I have questions, so I want to just say thank you.
I second that.
Me too.
Is there anything else?
How many, first I have two questions. Do you contract out the mowing of the grass?
In most of our parks, we don't.
Okay.
We don't. Only the riverfront
Okay.
is contracted out, but our parks
saw someone somewhere before.
employees do the lawn service.
Okay. And how many maintenance workers, I imagine, is what you have for most of them?
I believe we have about 7.
Okay.
It fluctuates, and a lot of times we do have to, they do pull a parks employee to go work stormwater, depending on the urgencies of the
Okay.
rest of the city. But
And-
I believe it's about 7 employees who are assigned to the Parks Department.
And do they take care of all the ball fields too, plus the mowing and everything else?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think we have 2 stable employees there, 2 employees who are there
Okay,
most of the week taking care of the ball fields.
okay. Yeah, so yeah, they can't get to everything.
Yes. And Marguerite, again.
There's a lot to take care of.
And staff, I'd like to thank the staff also, because I know, I think one of the easy solutions to a lot of this would be if the public can call when they notice things, as opposed to waiting, because I know everything takes time. And I'm asking everyone out there in the audience, just be patient a little bit, because sometimes when you do, Sebastian City seems to be large, but it seems to be pretty small, but it's kind of large. And by that being so, I just ask everyone out there in the audience to just be patient. I know you are patient, but at some point in time, if you visit any of the parks and you see something wrong, I'm pretty sure there's numbers out there also that they can call and just call the numbers, and that's an easy fix. Because sometimes, not sometimes, safety is always first, whether it's in the park or one of our community parks. Safety is always first, so if you recognize anything out there, please call the number listed on the sign, and we appreciate that. And again, staff, I can't thank you enough for everything that you guys do. I know it's not easy, and then it's not easy at all. And Ms. Frazier, thank you for all your comments and input and everything too, so we appreciate everyone, and Ms. Graham as well. And I do apologize too again, because I thought that one item about the shade was something we talked about before, but it wasn't, so I feel real bad about that. So other than that, our next meeting date would be March the 26th. And if you're not able to attend, please let Marguerite know if you can't attend at Friday, Thursday, or even like as soon as you know you can't be able to make it, so to help out. Because I know I'll be out of town that week because that's spring break, but more than likely I'm going to adjust my schedule to make sure I'm here for that. Because I think our county has spring break that week, start that week. So, but again, if I'm not able to attend the Easter egg hunt, I'll most definitely let you know, because I should be in Pensacola. I'm going to try to be there. There's no further comments about anything? Well, this meeting is adjourned.